What is going on, everybody? 'Tis I, the enigma of the gun airwaves, Miyanovich, welcoming you to Season 3 of the Liberal Gun Owners Lens podcast, where unprecedented perspectives are packed into the cargo hold for the LGO Lens spaceship Voyagio.
That's fucking Italian.
Don't believe that evolution is possible with guns and public safety in America? It's already happening, y'all. Minds are evolving. Think guns versus public safety is the only game in town, do ya? Think culture war is the big boss, do ya? Then keep your ass in the past. Everyone else, all aboard! So let me just say, Byron, Blunk, thank you for coming to the Liberal Gun Owners Lens podcast, man. It's great to have you here.
Thank you much. I'm excited for this conversation.
We were talking a little bit before about what you do for a living, kind of, but what do you do for a living? What are you currently doing for a living?
Yeah, I'm a vice president and business unit chief technology officer at a large multinational consulting firm. We've got about 92,000 employees globally, and that's a lot of fancy words for I spend most of my time in meetings, but officially I do things like software and infrastructure architecture. I do technology strategy. We look at vendors and all of those sorts of things. So I spend time talking to clients. I do some client billable work. I plan a lot of our internal things, but I'm a lot more on the business and strategy side nowadays in my life than I used to be. You know, I started out my professional career, if you don't include when I started my own consulting company at 18, which I don't. I started my professional career at Microsoft, spent 10 years there, did some notable things like inventing a private cloud in 2008 when that wasn't a term, worked on the NIST definition of cloud, those sorts of things. So I've always been more on the infrastructure side of technology, on the back end side, less so the front end, but I've always dabbled in things like mobile app development and those sorts of things. So I like to say that I've got breadth through depth in the technology industry.
Did you live in Silicon Valley or where?
No, I lived in Redmond, Washington for 10 years.
Okay.
Well, I worked in Redmond, Washington. I lived in Seattle, and then I lived in a small town called Duval, which is a suburb of a suburb. And then I moved to Austin for my role at Dell and participated in the merger with EMC. And since then have relocated to Omaha to be closer to family.
All right. I think I told you on text, I've only been through Omaha on my LGO travels, but I've stopped at the Whole Foods.
Yep.
I've been to the Omaha Whole Foods. I don't know if there's 2 of them or 3 of them, or I can't remember.
There's one Whole Foods.
Okay.
There's might be 2 Trader Joe's. I know for sure there's at least one Trader Joe's.
Is there a Sprouts?
There used to be.
Okay.
And Omaha is a very interesting part of Nebraska. You may have heard in the national news this blue dot phenomena. So Nebraska and Maine are the only 2 states that have apportioned representation in the Electoral College.
Yeah.
And Congressional District 2, which covers Omaha, has voted blue in 2 of the last 4 elections.
Yeah.
And just a little community effort in Dundee, which used to be a suburb and is now part of Omaha. They were hand painting this little blue dot on signs just as a show of solidarity.
Yeah.
And they got to 5,000 signs and said, we can't keep up, and ordered 5,000 more of them from the printers. So we are definitely mobilized for that here. We hope Congressional District 2 goes blue like it did, but we shall see.
Yeah, we sort of have something similar going on here. I live about an hour outside of Asheville, North Carolina. Of course, we just went through all the catastrophe recently, but Buncombe County is where Asheville is, and it is a blue county. I believe it's a blue county in a sea of red. So not quite the dot. It's probably a bigger phenomenon than a dot, but similar.
Mm-hmm.
That it happens. I'm also from Pennsylvania originally, so Pittsburgh, and so you basically have the blueness of Pittsburgh and Allegheny County, and then you have the blueness of Philadelphia and the blueness of Erie, but everything else is red.
Well, and when I lived in Austin, you had a very similar phenomenon, right? In Texas, the cities versus the rural counties.
What did you go to college and got a degree at all, or are you just like a self-starter, self-learner?
Both. So I attended the University of Nebraska Lincoln and a magnet program that was at the time called the J.D. Edwards Honors Program in Computer Science and Business Management. And that mouthful was too much. So it has been renamed to the Rakes School of Computer Science and Management.
Okay.
Jeff Rakes being a native Nebraskan, and when he retired from Microsoft, he was the president that included the Office division. So very well-to-do man with generational wealth. And he contributed a lot of money to this program. Mm-hmm. So I did 4 years there, and it's a very interesting program. It's the Oxford style learning model, where you have a community within the larger university. So we lived on the upper 2 stories of this building, and the bottom floor was classrooms for our shared curricula.
Okay.
Roughly half the students were business majors that dabbled in computer science. Roughly half were computer scientists who dabbled in business. You know, in computer science, we would do things like options pricing models and building an ERP system and very business-centric development. And then on the business side, we would do software development and we would do applications of IT so that you really get that well-roundedness. So you're not a technologist for technologist's sake. In my case, I felt, because I was a very arrogant 18-year-old, that I had learned enough about technology. So I focused heavily on the business side. And then, of course, my first job was a technical job. So most of that degree wasn't useful to me for about, I'd say, around 5 years. And then subsequent to that, I did undergo some classwork at Stanford under the Stanford Center for Professional Development. One of the benefits of working at Microsoft was access to that program. So I went ahead and got a graduate certificate in software systems, just to round out my credentials.
Yeah. And you've been a computery, software-y, nerdy type person. Like, were you like that in middle school and high school also? Were you like into tech?
Goes back to elementary school. My dad brought back that, for anyone that is a geek like me, the old compact lunchbox portable, the 286. Mm-hmm. So I cut my teeth on things like 1, 2, 3 instead of Excel. Okay. So that was fun. And then when we moved back from London was when we got our first PC. I was 10 at the time. Okay. And that's really when I got deep into it. And so, yes, over the middle school and high school years, I was upgrading my computer. I was dialed into bulletin board systems, all of the things that you did back then. So I had access to Usenet before we had an internet connection at home.
Cool.
And I could go through the history of all the modems that I own, but I think that would bore most people on this podcast.
I think some people would be like, yeah, do that. What year did you graduate high school?
Graduated high school in 2001, graduated university in 2005.
So we're 10 years apart. You're 10 years younger than me. I graduated in 91. I was trying to see if I could get in some Atari jokes.
Oh, you could. The very first console I played on was the Atari 2600 at my grandparents' house in Dallas. And I distinctly remember playing, and for those that are old enough to remember, Channel 3 versus Channel 4.
Right. I had an interesting childhood, to say the least. But so it was a mix of being a jock but also loving video games and being friends with the nerds also. So I was like a nerd jock kind of a guy and played sports and was outside constantly, but also had everything from like the original home Pong unit to any of the weird shit that ever came out that was handheld, to Atari, and my friends had ColecoVision and Intellivision, and we would go to the arcades constantly. So the early 80s, from like 80 to 85, were really impactful. Like they're a major like shining star in my history, right? And that early era of like when Pac-Man fever was happening and the whole country was nuts over it, and
the NES World Championships.
Yeah. It was great. And I miss it. But like we have I don't know if you guys have anything like this where you are, but we have a retro arcade in two of them actually. One in Nashville, one in Hendersonville, and they have all the old stand-ups. And then they have a section at the Retro Arcade in Nashville, where you can also have all of the modern play units, and they have big screen TVs, and you just go there for the day and pay $10. And you can spend the whole day there. You can leave and come back, and it's unlimited play. And they have every, Miss Pac-Man, Pac-Man, Tron, Joust, Centipede, Tempest, pinball machines. They have the whole thing, and I just absolutely love that stuff.
We have one similar. They're more focused on pinballs, but
okay.
I want to say there's something like 300 or 400 cabinets there. So definitely
cool.
Fun times. I'm blanking on the name, unfortunately.
Oh, that's awesome, man. I love that shit. If I could have my own, my dream was always to have like a solar powered off-grid arcade, like a solar powered arcade on whatever property I was on, so that all of the energy came from the sun and we played off of the sun.
I love that idea.
Yeah, I haven't given up on it yet, Byron. I haven't given up on it yet, but it would be cool. So family or kids or friends could come over. We could do parties and hang out and just play solar powered like stand-up arcade games.
Yeah, we've got the Stern Jurassic Park home premium pinball machine at our house. And for my son, who's in grade school, whenever their friends are over, that is the hit, right? Because who has a pinball machine at home? And they just love it. And it's awesome because they're so used to playing things like the Switch and being on a electronic screen that when they play the pinball machine with the physical clack and just that haptic feedback, there's something that's still magical about it, even for the next generation.
Yeah, I'm trying to get my kids, we have been, and I think we've been successful in the past year to get them off of the modern stuff, the contemporary stuff, and back into analog. Both of my kids have birthdays. One is in the fall, September. One is in September. One is in October. And I bought them both Walkman, like not the bona fide Sony Walkman, but like there's a company called Retrospect, and they make a modern Walkman, like a cassette Walkman with the old school orange foamed COS headphones. And so I bought them those, and one of my girls they both got 2 tapes. One of my girls got Michael Jackson's Thriller and the Guardians of the Galaxy mixtape from the movie. And then the other one is a singer and she's into musical theater. So I got her Grease and Footloose on tape. So now we're starting that whole world of like, hey, let's go out to this store that sells audio cassettes still, used ones, and let's go like find some cool shit.
Yeah. I distinctly remember my first tape was the Top Gun soundtrack, and man, did that hit hard.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, especially if you could carry that over into like your first car. If you had a cassette player in your first car, you could play Danger Zone. Yep.
First car was red too, of course.
Right on. That's awesome. All right, and you have one kid, or do you have 2 kids? You have one boy?
So I actually lost a daughter, so I just have the one child.
Okay.
And I don't generally give out gender or age because I don't trust the internet, nor should anyone.
Yeah, sure, that's fine.
But I will say a grade school kiddo that is just awesome. And being a dad is, while challenging, one of the best things I've ever done.
Yeah, it's you think you know what's up and what matters in life, and then you have a kid, and then
it changes in 6 months.
God, like shit comes out of your bones that you didn't even know was there.
Well, never mind the aging part. I just mean them changing.
Yeah. So let's move on to Byron's relationship with guns. So if you're a nerd, I'm going to guess that you're traveling along the well-worn path of nerds and geeks love mechanical things. And so is that how you made your way to guns? How did you make your way to guns?
No, it actually isn't. So, when I was growing up, both of my parents, and I didn't know this at the time, but both of my parents were very liberal and had your traditional anti-gun stance. I fought for, I think it took me 3 years to get my BB gun. And that's kind of where that stopped at mom and dad's house. And then over the years, I had friends who hunted. I had friends who shot for plinking purposes. And I would go to the range with them, in Washington, in Redmond. There's a couple of notable gun ranges, and I went to all of them with people. And, I found it enjoyable. It was a fun time to spend with people, but that mindset of guns are dangerous, they shouldn't be in the house, right? All of those things just kind of stuck in the back of my mind. And so for years and years, it never occurred to me that I would purchase one of my own. And then the George Floyd riots happened. And then there was a lot of issues in the Omaha metro. And without going into the history of Omaha too much, I can say that the predominantly Black neighborhood of North Omaha, the city decided to put a freeway right in the middle of it, and they actually built a building to block a road to disconnect North Omaha from the city of Omaha. Huge history of racism in Omaha.
Oh, sure.
We were forced busing into the 2000s.
Oh, no way.
So you can imagine that the George Floyd riots caused a lot of civil unrest in Omaha. And there was a owner of a business in downtown Omaha that shot and killed a young Black man. And there was a lot of community grief, outrage, and all of the things that you would expect from something of that happening. And I'm watching these things from my nice ivory tower in the very rich white suburbs of Omaha, knowing that I would never have to fear for my life in the way that that young man did. But it triggered something. It was, what happens if that sort of thing occurred in my neighborhood? What happens if I was in downtown Omaha, which I do go to frequently? What if I was there when that happened? And when you looked at that time of history, what the police response was or wasn't. And we've heard about there is no true duty to protect anymore. And, you just started hearing all this narrative and you go, God, going back to your comment about being a dad, well, I need to protect my kid, I need to protect my wife, I need to protect myself, and I need to figure out how to do that. And so that's kind of what really started me down the research avenue of firearms. And it took me quite a while to get there. Again, a lot of angst around gun ownership that was still present in my mind at that time. And so I started looking at it, and I was talking to my wife, and she wasn't anti-gun. She grew up in Oklahoma. I grew up in Texas. You would think that I wasn't anti-gun, but I was. And we were having those conversations. She was like, well, why don't we try it? So we found a range that was very LGBTQIA, people of color friendly, called Athena Arms. And they're a little far away from us. They're in the southern suburbs. I'm in the western suburbs. But they held a very inclusive get to know firearms day. And I thought, okay, if they're willing to host that, they're my kind of peeps.
Yeah.
So went there. We had a great instruction, got intimately familiar with handguns and how to clean them, how to service them, all of those things. And I really enjoyed shooting. My wife, not as much. And she has decided that she doesn't want to own a firearm, and that's her choice. But I really got into it. And then I had to pick the first firearm. And let me tell you, I'm the kind of person that researches things to death. So I spent a lot of time. Do I want threaded barrels? Do I not? Do I want full size? Do I want compact? Am I going to carry? I probably shouldn't carry first. All of those things going through my head. So I eventually landed, the first one I got was a Canik Mete SFT Pro. And it just, of all of the ones I shot, and I probably shot 30 different handguns, it just felt right. The way it cycled, the recoil impulse, how easy it was to disassemble and clean, just everything about it just spoke to me. And then it had a threaded barrel, so I'm going to put a comp on it, and down the road I'm going to fill out my form to get a suppressor. But right now it's just, I love that thing. And of course I've bought since then, but that's really how I got into it, was this concept of quasi personal defense, not prepper preparedness, but just what if,
right? And
protecting against that hypothetical.
Yeah. Well, the very nature of self-defense, I always say, is prospective. And there seems to be in society on the liberal sort of anti-gun side, or the general aversion towards weaponry that seems to exist in the left of center reality in America. That kind of a mindset allows itself to engage in what we know as prospection, which is considering the future, and all kinds of areas. Could be finance, other kinds of planning, strategy, education, thinking about the future, thinking about things, or spending a lot of time thinking about things that will never probably occur, but some of them might. But prospection is a human fundamental. And it's just, there's a lot of cultural pressure against prospection with weaponry and self-defense because of how the left, quote unquote, the left, has developed in America. It's quite normal for Homo sapiens to have prospection relative to their own lives. It's just we kind of are raised inside of a reality where we believe that that's no longer necessary. And if it is necessary, then the police or the army has us covered. And that's simply just not real. I guess it is factually real for most people. Will never have to get into it in their lives. So it is in that way accurate. But I always say that the nature of prospection is not about evidence. It's about potentials. It's not about things that are actually going to happen or things that we know, like it's about this could happen. So your story is like a story of becoming awakening to martial prospection or martial awareness, like many, many people that on this podcast and many people that I know in the liberal gun owning reality. I mean, including myself, I wasn't really thinking about it. I lived in a predominantly African-American neighborhood. I had moved in there to try to help a certain section of Pittsburgh revitalize. And, the area goes through waves. It's like, it's fine. And then there's so much crime, and then there's fine. And then I started a family and bad shit was going on. And I was just like, that switch got turned on inside of me. I wasn't able to move at the time. We got to get a shotgun in the house. And then it was, well, we're going to be out on the street too. So I need to get a concealed carry piece. But it's quite a normal reaction for humans. It's just not quite a normal reaction for like suburban liberals in America.
Right.
So a very common story. That's interesting. Very, very interesting. Like if I was asked recently, I don't know if you saw, but LGO and my big mouth was in the Wall Street Journal and Fox Business.
Yes, I remember reading that and thinking you did a very good job on it.
Thank you.
Never easy when you're in a hostile kind of interview situation.
Yeah, and actually, as an aside, one of the best scores for networking that we've ever had was the woman that did the thing for Fox Business.
Oh,
because she's just a journalist and a writer who's an independent, and her gig is with Fox Business. So she needs that gig.
right.
You know what I mean? So, but she's not a fucking conservative. She's an independent, and they really like her, and it's a good job for her. She was over the moon about LGO. She was like, approaching things like this, I've been waiting almost. This is like her sentiment. Like, I've been hoping that there were people that would approach guns and public safety. So we scored a pretty big ally there, and a person that's very supportive of LGO and wants to, as a human, not as a journalist, wants us to win.
Absolutely. And having journalists on our side is immense. We have seen, especially right now, the narrative that media organizations give really changes the subjective truth of those who hear it.
Sure.
So if all our peers that are liberal are only hearing is the liberal vacuum chamber of guns are bad, that's going to be largely the belief of those people. And I didn't come across liberal gun owners from an article, right? I came across it organically as I was doing my searching.
Yeah.
And I was like, there's got to be people like me out there.
Yeah.
I know I'm not that unique. Might be unique and I might have my quirks, but I'm not that unique that I'm the only one.
Yeah.
And the more we can get that narrative out there, the more we can reach someone who is liberal on all the things that matter: social justice, equality, right? All of the things that women and reproductive freedom should go without saying, but nowadays I have to explicitly make a point that we need to support that, right?
Sure, yeah.
I dealt with fertility issues. My ex-wife and I, we had lots of those. I can say that she probably wouldn't be here if the laws of the state that I am in right now were the laws of Washington state at the time. I won't go into any more personal details than that, but these laws are killing women.
Sure.
So we need to focus on all of that. But the challenge is that comes with the anti-gun mindset. And I wish there was a way that I didn't have to figure this out on my own, that there was an NRA equivalent that wasn't the NRA.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think the start is that reality we have to realize that like the supersonic anti-mentality really only is decades old.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're really getting the opportunity to react to it. We're in the early stages of it. And so the good news is that at first you have to make sure that narrative gets challenged. It can't go unchallenged.
Mm-hmm.
And this is what we're developing now, whether it's LGO or LGC or the other groups, the NAGA, they are not going to be able to keep riding this anti-gun juggernaut thing that they're building without challenge. They're just not they're not going to be able to. So that's the good news. And it is always for us, as you say, it's bittersweet. This is the Democrats are the party that we need to support if we want to uphold these other things that we believe in, but they are terrible at the nexus between guns and public safety, in my opinion. It's not a matter of opinion. Like, they just have a different viewpoint. They're awful at it.
Oh, absolutely. And the one thing, and anyone who's seen my posts in either LGO or LGC have heard me say this, while I absolutely abhor that position, I will always put women's reproductive freedom and women's health care above my restrictions on, say, an ability to purchase.
Sure.
Right?
Sure.
It's a false narrative that we have to take one for the other.
Yes.
We can prioritize certain things while working to make the other things better.
Yeah, it's important for an effective perspective, a 21st century mentality with guns, and I mean this from the standpoint of a professional company, like a leading edge company. We need a leading edge company that knows how to care about guns without making guns the center of the universe, and that's one of the main issues with the NRA is they make guns an absolutist proposition. And this is one of the reasons why things don't get any better. We can believe in guns. I can make guns number one, and then Byron doesn't have to, right? Like, I can position LGO so that we're making guns number one, even though I don't necessarily make guns number one all the time with myself. Why would I? They're not the center of the universe by far.
Right.
But I can do that professionally. And Byron can understand that and support it somewhat, but Byron doesn't have to do that. Right. That mentality alone is like alien to much of what goes on in I wouldn't say sort of the activist and professional gun space. But what's interesting, Byron, is that the more I go out there, like just going out and going to David Yamani's book launch things or whatever, there are so many moderate Republicans who also don't make guns the center of the universe, which is really, really important. But I want to bring it back for a second to what I wanted to get on originally was these people. One of the people, media outlets that was interviewing me, they're trying to find this narrative that because Kamala Harris and Tim Walz have guns, that there might be some impetus there for liberals to be more open to gun ownership now. And have we seen a major influx of gun ownership since, or interest in our group since Kamala Harris and Tim Walz said this, or since Kamala Harris announced? And the reality is this doesn't do shit. Like it might do something. It might add a little trickle. People might go, well, if Kamala Harris has a gun, then maybe it's okay. And maybe I can be interested in this, but that's not the major reason why, quote unquote, we are buying guns. And there's two surges that happened, one in 2015, and that kind of trickles into your experience. And then the other one is at the beginning of COVID. And all of that is martial alarm. That's people and their insides going, ping, oh shit, I think protecting my own life is something I'm going to need to consider. That's the main reason why liberals are buying more guns since 2015.
Yeah, that certainly is why I did.
Yes. But it's not like, I'm a liberal, but I think this idea of like shooting target paper would be awesome. It's not that. It's Trump. It's the rise of right-wing extremism. It's the George Floyd effect. It's COVID. It's, boy, maybe the cops can't come and help me.
In some senses, it's a breakdown of the social contract.
Yes, and most certainly is, or the apparent breakdown of it, or the breakdown of part of it, or people just becoming aware of
the frailty of it. Or
it's bullshit. It's 50% a myth anyway. Like, it's cool if it's part of it's true. That's what we're dealing with right now in the think tank with the analysis of the law and its effects on human behavior and guns. Is that part of the issue is that a lot of these things are mythological. They're not real. We just believe in them because they give us a sense of comfort. And that sense of comfort really does help with social cohesion and social success. But the downside of believing in things that kind of aren't true is that they eventually come to roost. So, but relying on somebody else to save your life ultimately runs against 300,000 years of Homo sapien data.
And it implies a level of trust that, naively in my childhood, of course, I trusted the police to do the right thing.
Sure.
As an adult, they're human beings.
Yeah.
Do I trust them implicitly? No, I don't. Do I directionally trust that in my suburban white household, that if the police show up at my door, it's probably going to be okay? Yeah, I do.
Well,
do I recognize that that is not the case for a huge swath of this country? Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think some of my thoughts have been, even if it's just marginalized people who have the real case for self-defense firearms, and we, middle of the road whites kind of don't. We do, but it's not what the marginalized people of this country are facing, right? Even if that's the case, you need a universal tradition that supports this for such phenomena.
Right.
And that universal tradition needs to carry through every year for, all the way into the future. So even if you and I don't necessarily see, because I know there are people in our reality that are like, look, I'm a upper middle class white person in an amazing neighborhood. The chances I'm ever going to need to use my gun are like 0. But other people need this right.
And if we normalize it,
yeah,
then it becomes more accessible.
Sure. Absolutely. And there needs to be a universal collective kind of supporting it the whole time, whether times are good or times are bad. Like sort of the reactive mentality of humans might be like, well, things are great right now. Mm-hmm. Well, why would you need that? Yeah, things are great right now. But, how many times in the past 10 years have we seen things get not great pretty easily sometimes?
Going back to your prospection comment, I mean, if I truly look at what I've seen happen over the last 5 years, it's hard for me not to conclude that I have a need for personal self-defense.
Yes.
Now, I'm not saying that that's 100% I will use it.
Yeah.
I'm not ascribing a likelihood to it, but we've seen the breakdowns of these social contracts. We've seen the challenges with the police forces across the country.
Yeah.
And I find it hard to not conclude that you need to protect yourself and your family.
Yeah. And one of the benefits of doing the research and the writing that I've been doing for now the past 6 or 7 years straight is doing, so many people have been like, Randy's doing like all this work on ancient projectiles, and it's tens of thousands of dollars we spent on it. It's so important. And why is it important? Because that analysis shows some algorithms and some patterns that everybody needs to get hip to. When you're moving into an uncertain future, and we have the 21st century is bringing so many different things to us, climate being one of them, whatever the effects of the internet are on people's psychology being one of them. And that's definitely contributing to social unrest and some breakdown of, as you say, the social contract.
As well as polarization. Right?
Yeah.
And my wife came up with this. Well, I don't know if she came up with it or read it, but when we were kids, you had the village conspiracy theorist, right? They wore their tinfoil hats and they spouted nonsense and they were harmless.
Yeah.
Nowadays, that village idiot connects with next door village idiot, connects with 10,000 other village idiots. And now all of a sudden they've got a voice. And that's a scary thing.
Yes. Yes. And to add to that also I'll come back to the anthropology thing, but, in studying and being a part of the big brains that look at mass shootings and school shootings, it's not just the village idiots, it's the people who have there's something wrong with them psychologically. We don't want to call it mental illness because that's not accurate. Mentally ill people typically don't harm others. They harm themselves. They're more likely to harm themselves or are more likely to be harmed by others. But there's certainly people who have massive mental instability that have ideas and they're on the internet all the time. And previously they can't find much confidence because they can't form an alliance or a confederacy with others who share their ideas. But with the school shooting culture, you can find other people that to create a confederacy with very easily. So
absolutely. So the radicalization that is now possible.
Yeah.
And this goes in multiple directions, not one group versus the other, but in general, the ability for especially young people to radicalize based on what they've found on the internet in a community with other people that say the things that are saying what they say, that address the fears that they have. It's It's a scary thing, but it's also, if you can step back from it, it's utterly fascinating to see the role the internet has played there on building these communities of radicalization.
Yeah. And why? And if the question is, in my mind, why did we have the semi-automatic mechanism for over a century? And it really kind of wasn't that much of an issue. Now it is. And it's an issue because of what we're talking about. It's an issue because the internet allows people with issues, deep issues, who are mentally radical, to find confederacy and confidence for their ideas and their delusions, which are a lot of their ideas. And then they can combine that with semi-automatic fire, right? They can combine those two things. It was hard for these people you'd have to do pamphlets and secret meetings, and you really couldn't find the confederacy of the nutters so easily. And now you can just click a button and find a confederacy for any delusion or nut job thing you have going on in your head.
Even worse than that, in some cases, depending on the ideology, you don't even have to click a button.
Yeah.
It is offered up to you as part of the algorithm.
Yes, indeed. Very scary. And this is why I think when we're talking about root cause mitigation, if people don't start talking about the effects of the internet on the human psyche, I don't even take them seriously.
And specifically social networking.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
The monetization of human networking. I'm not going to say it's good or bad. I'm not here to pass the value judgment. Sure. Obviously, financially, it's been very lucrative to companies. But it is an interesting question of, has social networking net been good for us?
Yeah.
We talk a lot about the negatives, and they are very real, very experienceable negatives. Election misinformation, radicalization, the amplification of loud voices that we were just talking about.
Yeah.
Are there corresponding goods that we need to be looking at to say, hey, we're not saying social networking is bad intrinsically. We're saying, like any other tool, like a firearm, depending on how it's utilized, dramatically changes the effect it has on society.
Yeah.
And maybe there's something in there that we can influence the narrative around big tech and social networking such that it does become a force for good.
Yeah.
I like to be an optimist. I like to think that technology can be a net good to humanity. My job depends on it, so I'm kind of a shill in that regard. But I do truly believe that if we approach it the right way, if we approach it with the liberal values that we do for, say, the news media, there should be a path that we can chart forward that is good and not bad.
Yeah, I've been hoping, since we've had so many people who have feet in Silicon Valley in our group, I have hoped that we have been able to find more people because there's a lot of gun ownership in Silicon Valley, and each of the big companies at least one point had a gun club within their walls, that we would find more people that understand what you and I are talking about and want to get in on being a gun owner who wants to focus on these things, because I think we just have a unique ability and unique perspective because we're inside of it. And I think we have solution sets and can come up with solution sets that other people won't be able to.
I agree with that for sure.
And I wish that we had more gun people in the tech world that would be like, all right, I want to get in on this, like solving the problem side, not just, I like explodey mechanism thingies and putting the holes in the paper really, really close together because I'm a nerd. Like, okay, right. we get it, like that part's there. But these are cats that have influence. They have friends that are worth billions and billions of dollars. Like one of the things that I've said is that, like in terms of LGO being a social special forces unit, which we are, is I'm just going to get a fucking plane ticket and go to Silicon Valley and like just start walking into coffee houses and buildings and just start talking to people. Like, come on, you guys. You guys have so much resource. We have so many problems that we can solve here. Like, let's get on this. That's definitely on my whiteboard. But I want to go back and tie up a ribbon on the thing I wanted to bring up about the anthropology analysis is moving into this uncertain future, unprecedented future based on these things we're talking about. My admonition to people, or my suggestion to people, is that do not go into the future without having access to a semi-automatic firearm. But most specifically, I would say a rifle, because they're more intuitive than the pistol. Mm-hmm. In my estimation, I find pistols annoying. I kind of like them, but I also find them super annoying. But the rifle is much more intuitive. But whatever it is that we're going into the future and facing, and particularly because of what we've been talking about in terms of we need like a tradition. We need to uphold a tradition and move it forward respectively with liberal mentality. We need to represent the semi-automatic rifle well. We need to be able to be well trained and represent it well. And I think, honestly, a person is being foolish if they're heading into the 21st century and not having that tradition in their family with at least the pistol. Like, doesn't have to be the rifle, but at least the pistol. My personal recommendation is the rifle too.
Well, not just that. The manual of arms is so much easier. The recoil, the management of shot placement, it's just easier.
Yeah. And it's what Homo sapiens do. They take the leading edge, democratizable projectile of every era and develop a somewhat intimate relationship with it. Like,
agreed.
We do it in every society that we generate, we do it. And the only thing that changes is who controls it. Is it the government that has it, controlled, or is it the government and the people? It never changes other than that. It's as I said in my last lecture at David Umani's class, the human weapon relationship is a closed system, period. There's no other, it never acts any other way. It's people, it's the people, the government, and the guns, or the people, the government, and the projectiles. You don't get any other result. It's like, as I said in David's class, it's like if you had a water balloon as the system, and the water inside is the gun, and the guns and the people and the government. All you can do is like squish it in the middle, and the government, it squeezes out on one side and squeezes out on the other. You can get more of one and less of the other, but you're not getting zero.
And the nice part of that analogy is if you squeeze it too hard, it just blows up.
Sure. Yes. I'm going to add that and cite you.